Hello everyone, I'm Jack Fisher and welcome to my world. And beyond that world, we may or may not be alone. It's an age-old question whether or not there's other intelligent life in the universe. We keep searching and speculating, eager and anxious for answers. There are so many possibilities. Some are good, some are dire, if not catastrophic. Most are just a complicated combination of both. And there's certainly a time and place for a meaningful discussion about the nature of extraterrestrial life, from what form it takes to what happens when we make contact with them. But that's a discussion for another video. This time, I want to talk about a very specific scenario for first contact with extraterrestrial life. In addition, I want to talk about a movie in which that scenario plays out in a glorious cinematic marvel. The movie in question is Independence Day, a summer blockbuster from 1996 that raised the bar for all summer blockbusters. And I know just that by mentioning that movie, some people can already hear President Whitmore's legendary speech in their heads. Believe me, I hear it too. It's still one of the best damn speeches in movie history. But that aspect of the movie isn't going to be my primary focus. I'm also not looking to scrutinize the science behind the technology, the aliens, or the likelihood that a computer from 1996 could upload a virus into an alien mothership. Believe me, I see the same issues as everyone else. Instead, I want to talk about this movie within a specific context. In terms of meeting alien life, Independence Day presents a unique scenario. We find out aliens exist. They arrive unexpectedly and uninvited. They turn out to be hostile, and humanity has to fight them in order to survive. It's not exactly a rosy picture for a first contact. All the death and destruction we see throughout the movie makes that abundantly clear. However, by the end of the movie, the totality of that picture sends a very different message. Overall, Independence Day actually makes a compelling case that this scenario, finding alien life and life that's hostile towards us, might be the best case scenario for first contact. Now, before I go any further, I need to backtrack a bit and explain what I mean by best scenario. Because when most people think of an ideal scenario for meeting intelligent alien life, a movie like Independence Day is not what comes to mind. They're more likely to envision the scenarios from Star Trek. In that version, alien races come together, make peace, and enrich one another's respective species. Now that's all well and good, but I would still argue there are caveats to that concept. For one, it assumes an awful lot, both of aliens and of humanity. It requires that intelligent aliens be peaceful, nonviolent, and highly motivated to traverse the universe to make peaceful contact. Now, even if they are peaceful and nonviolent, it's that last one I think is a bit of a stretch. The universe is so enormously, mind-bendingly huge. It takes a lot to traverse those vast distances, even with advanced technology. No matter how alien a life form may be, life is still bound by basic logistics. It needs to justify the vast effort it puts into something, such as traveling the stars. For that reason and many others, I would argue that if a peaceful alien race did seek to contact us, chances are they wouldn't do what the invaders did in Independence Day. They would either try to use radio waves or send a probe. But even a probe tends to complicate things. Because what are the chances we'll even understand anything they try to tell us, or the message these aliens are sending? Even if the aliens uncovered our languages and intended for us to understand them, we'd still struggle. We still struggle to effectively communicate with other humans from other cultures. An entirely alien species is uncharted territory. That would neither unite nor destroy humanity. It would just complicate our existence, as well as that of the aliens. But the aliens in Independence Day were not vague in their message. They arrived in a massive ship. They invaded our world, shot at anything that tried to communicate with them, and had no interest in peace. That's scary and daunting, but it's a message every human being on every corner of the planet can understand. The aliens are here, they've got advanced technology, and they want to kill us. It's blunt and clear. There's even a context to their destructive methods. These hostile creatures traverse the universe to invade worlds and consume their resources. Like termites going from tree to tree, this is just how they sustain themselves. Humans are merely obstacles in their way. We can't reason with them, let alone make peace with them. Our only choice is to fight them. And through that simple approach, Independence Day presents us with what seems like the worst circumstances for alien contact. But within those same dark circumstances, there are also some revealing implications, and they actually bode well for humanity as a whole. Now, for a brief moment, let's step back from Independence Day and look at a less bleak version for First Contact. Intelligent aliens arrive, they're peaceful, and they want to get to know us, maybe even help us. Now that's great, and I'm sure most people would be on board with that effort. However, humans are notorious for bickering with one another. Hell, we fight over pizza toppings in parking spots. It's next to impossible to get the whole of humanity on the same page on anything. We're just too tribal. So even if peaceful aliens arrived, some would still think they're hostile and plot accordingly. Some would go so far as to worship them as gods, which would put them at odds with centuries of religious traditions. And none of that would be the fault of the aliens. All this division and conflict would be humanity's doing. Now, going back to Independence Day, there really is no room to disagree for once. We either get on the same page, or we all die. And if human history has taught us anything, is that people will unite when their survival is at stake. We will fight alongside people we hate in order to endure another day. When your very existence is threatened, petty differences tend to become an afterthought. That's exactly what happened in the final act of the movie. It was at the core of President Whitmore's legendary speech. He said it himself.
Perhaps it's fate that today is the 4th of July, and you will once again be fighting for our freedom. Not from tyranny, oppression, or persecution, but from annihilation. We're fighting for our right to live, to exist. And should we win the day, the 4th of July will no longer be known as an American holiday, but as the day when the world declared in one voice, we will not go quietly into the night. We will not vanish without a fight. We're going to live on. We're going to survive. Today, we celebrate our Independence Day.
Now, beyond the spirit and applause this speech inspires, it perfectly channels one of the few things that unify humanity: a common struggle. And one of the most effective common struggles you can possibly have is a common enemy. It takes humanity's tribal instincts and turns it up to 11. Now, historically speaking, this has had some fairly nasty consequences. For all of human history, our common enemy has still been other humans. Be they invading barbarians, a rival tribe, a growing empire, or just your typical Yankees fan, our common enemy has always had a human face. So, by default, we've only ever been able to unify as a species to a certain point. But in Independence Day, humanity is facing something it has never encountered before: a common enemy that is distinctly non-human. On top of that, these creatures clearly despise humanity. They don't want to conquer, subjugate, or enslave us. They just want to kill us. In terms of an enemy, you can't get much more common than that. And having a common enemy does something else beyond fostering unity. And it's here where Independence Day actually gives humanity the best possible foundation to build on, one that might actually be more beneficial than anything peaceful aliens could ever offer. Nobody knows for sure just how much humanity will change after making contact with intelligent alien life. It could be the best or worst thing that ever happens to us. Like Neo finding out about the Matrix, it could break us as individuals and as a species. But the story in Independence Day sets humanity up with all the right incentives at the end. It's not just that we overcame impossible odds, defeating a powerful enemy through guts, grit, and cunning. Even after the human race wins the day and the credits roll, all the right dynamics are still in place. The impact is unavoidable and undeniable for everyone. Yes, these alien invaders brought with them a lot of death and destruction, but we still defeated them. We also proved that we could come together, set aside our differences, and save our planet and our species. Now, historically speaking, people go back to being tribal after a war is over. We win the day, we rebuild from there, and we try to get back to the lives we once knew. But again, that's against human enemies. Independence Day presents us with a very different kind of enemy, one who just ventured across the universe just to blow up our cities. That kind of devastation is not something people forget within a generation. These aliens invaded all over the world. Everyone, from New York to Bombay to Sydney, experienced it together. Just rebuilding won't be enough this time. If we're to avoid this kind of devastation again, we have to stay united. We have to cooperate, coordinate, and invest in defending ourselves and our planet. And as it just so happens, there's a ton of crashed alien technology lying around. It may be way more advanced than anything we've ever seen before, but we have every possible incentive to unlock its secrets. Cold fusion, anti-gravity, quantum computers, hoverboards. It may all be possible with this technology. And it'll help that curiosity alone won't be what drives us. The desire to not be invaded and killed will probably be more prescient. Plus, Will Smith's character, Captain Stephen Hillard, had a lot of fun flying that alien craft. Let's not forget that. Now, in the past, humanity has had to rebuild from devastating events before, but we've never been able to rebuild with alien technology and global unity. We've also never been able to rebuild with a clear, unambiguous threat that gives us plenty of incentive to stay on the same page. Overall, it would put the human race in the best possible situation to thrive in the future. And all throughout our history, we've never had that. And absent an alien invasion that plays out exactly like Independence Day, we may never have that. It's tragic in a sense that it would take something that big for humanity to come together, but like we saw in the movie, it would bring out our greatest strengths. To truly appreciate the scenario set up by Independence Day, it's also worth acknowledging some unavoidable truths. United or not, the human race has to develop better technology, and it has to develop technology that will allow it to survive beyond this planet. Because one day, Earth will not be able to support human life. If we want to survive as a species, we have to become a spacefaring civilization. It's what the aliens in Independence Day did. That's what we'll have to do, hopefully without becoming hostile invaders ourselves. As it stands right now, we're a long way off from that ability. Even if our planet can sustain us for centuries to come, it's still only a matter of time before we have to leave. Our spacefaring technology is still relatively nascent, but we'll have to make some big leaps to really thrive long term. The events of Independence Day didn't just give us more incentive, it essentially allows us to skip a bunch of steps along the way. Because even after we blow it up, the alien hardware is still there, and from an engineering standpoint, it's much easier to reconstruct a working prototype than it is to make one from scratch. It's an incredibly promising vision for our future. It would allow people who survived the invasion to see several centuries of progress within their lifetime. But therein lies the biggest caveat of this scenario, as well as the overall story in Independence Day. It still requires that mankind survive an invasion by advanced aliens capable of interstellar travel. And even if doing so puts humanity in the best possible position, it's still probably the least realistic part of this scenario. That's because, when you get right down to it, the aliens in Independence Day were incredibly stupid. It's not just that they couldn't block a virus from a 90s era computer. Their whole invasion plan was just ridiculously inefficient. They have the technology to traverse interstellar space and direct enough energy to destroy entire cities. And yet, they go about subduing humanity by just obliterating population centers one by one, leaving the people to escape, regroup, and potentially fight back. Even if they see all humans as just insects, you don't stop destroying the tip of an anthill. You get in deep and make sure there's none left to annoy you. And let's be real. If hostile aliens really existed and they came to Earth looking to exterminate us, we wouldn't stand a chance. It wouldn't matter how many inspiring speeches that President Whitmore gave. We would be wiped out with ease. The aliens could just engineer a virus that wipes out humanity, hit the planet with a gamma ray energy burst to sterilize the surface, or ram it with a kinetic weapon that broke the Earth's crust like an eggshell. We would not be able to stop that. It would be like a rat trying to stop a nuclear bomb. And that's part of what makes Independence Day such a fun movie. It's very much a fantasy, portraying something that's both entertaining and unrealistic to the audience. It's also what makes this rosy scenario I just described that much more enticing. To get there, it requires humanity to literally do the impossible, defeating an alien race that's centuries more advanced than us. It's a great story and an amazing cinematic experience, and it paints a picture of an incredible outcome for First Contact, one that essentially forces humanity to be the best it can possibly be. It's just a shame that such potential can only be realized in the wake of a devastating invasion that we'd never survive outside the movie. I'll say it again because it's worth belaboring. The prospect of encountering alien life is profound. Just knowing it exists would be game-changing for our species. And actually making contact with it, that would shake things up even more. It's impossible to know just how much it'll affect humanity until it actually happens. People listening to this right now may or may not live to see that day. But in the meantime, Independence Day gives us a vision for just how big that impact could be. It shows our cities being destroyed, our society falling apart, and our world being completely upended. But it also shows how humanity can come together in the face of total annihilation. It dares to envision a version of First Contact in which we overcome impossible odds, defeating an overwhelming enemy the likes of which we've never encountered before. It's powerful stuff. It speaks to our potential as a species. And that's exactly why, in the end, Independence Day may very well be a best-case scenario for alien contact. It's big, messy, and destructive, but it essentially forces us to be the best we can be as a species. Because if we don't, we all go extinct. It's as simple as that. That makes for an immensely satisfying story, but, and this is just my opinion, it's not the First Contact scenario we should expect, let alone hope for. Because even if it did bring out the best in all of us, I believe it would come at too high a price. That doesn't make Independence Day any less fun. As a movie, it's a blockbuster for the ages. It may not answer any profound questions about extraterrestrial life, but it still makes for a great story. It still dared us to imagine just how awesome humanity could be when our survival was at stake. If only the sequel hadn't been so goddamn underwhelming. Thanks for watching, everyone, and thanks for joining me in my world. Please remember to like, comment, and subscribe. Take care and stay safe.